Hey, it's your pal Sully. I'm at Goodwin Field at the California State University of Fullerton campus. I'm about to graduate, but I have a question to ask. Why isn't college baseball bigger?
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever they're calling it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. But the best way to get a hold of me is right here. Put your comments on the YouTube page, and I swear I will read them. Before we get going, let's go through the trivia question. Last time I asked a trivia question was, I asked what current member of the Baseball Hall of Fame was the last Dodger to get 200 hits before Mr. Freeman did a few years ago. The answer to the question, and our good friend GRT Hughes got it correct, the answer to the question was Adrian Beltre. That's right, Adrian Beltre. You know, when you think about some of the big moves and trades that the Dodgers have had, some of their great players they've had over the years, they've let a few Hall of Famers go. There was a period of time where Adrian Beltre was putting up great numbers, Mike Piazza was an MVP candidate, and Pedro Martinez was pitching as if he was from a different planet. They all could have been teammates. When Beltre was starting to emerge in the mid-2000s, was part of the 2004 squad that won the National League West, a great Dodger team could have emerged like a magic eye drawing. Imagine Pedro pitching to Mike Piazza for all those years in LA. But, alas, Pedro has a Red Sox hat on his Hall of Fame plaque. Most people think of Mike Piazza as a Met, and almost everyone thinks of Adrian Beltre as a Texas Ranger. But he was the last Dodger before Freddie Freeman to get 200 hits in a season. I'm going to be honest with you. I have a whole bunch of crazy things. I'm in my cap. I'm not wearing my cap right now, but in my gown here. I'm about to get my master's degree in a couple hours at the graduation ceremony here on campus. I got here early, so instead of being alone with my thoughts, I decided to record a podcast. That's how I operate. And I also am positive I'm not wearing this correctly. This is, you get a hood when you get a master's degree. And this is my second master's degree. My first master's degree was from Washington State University. And someone had to help me put my hood on there. Guess what? Someone's have to help me put my hood on here as well. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. The two places I've got master's degrees from have had success in college baseball. You have John Olerud was one of the great stars of Washington State baseball. In fact, he was a two-way player. When he was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays in the late 90s, there was talk that maybe he was going to be someone who was going to be a pitcher and a hitter in Major League Baseball. It didn't work out that way. We had to wait for Shohei Ohtani. Ron Cey and Tom Niedenfuhr also went there. Now, right here, I'm standing in front of the Wall of Champions here at Cal State Fullerton. They have an even stronger history of college baseball. The 1979 NCAA champions, the 1984 NCAA champions, the 95 NCAA champions, and the 2004. And they list some of the players who are on there. And there are some familiar names. Tim Wallach, whose number is retired here, became an all-star mainly for the Montreal Expos. He actually did play for the Dodgers for a little bit. A couple other players I recognize from there. John Christensen played for the Mets and the Mariners. In 1984, there's a couple players that I certainly recognize. Shane Turner, Jeff Robinson played in the major leagues. There's a couple other players who had cups of coffee in the majors. In 1995, they won it. By the way, Augie Garrido was the coach of the first three champions, and he wound up winning 3 national titles and 15 conference titles. That team had Jeremy Giambi on it. Who else was on there? Mike Lamb, Mark Kotze, certainly became a fine player and a manager. And then in 2004, when George Horton took over as the coach, Justin Turner was on that team. Kurt Suzuki was on that team. A couple other players who made it to the major leagues were on that squad. Ricky Romero, yeah, there's another who was on that squad. And they called Goodwin Field their home, right here behind me. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm guessing you don't follow much college baseball. And I know that I don't. When I lived in Palo Alto in the late 1980s, the Stanford Cardinal were one of the best college baseball teams, and they had some dynamic players. They had Blackjack McDowell, who was a huge superstar there. But college baseball, which is very, very exciting, and the College World Series is always fun to watch, but it does not have a hold on the sportsgoer of America like, say, college football does, or college basketball. It's more on par with college hockey. If you're in a big hockey town, you're going to get super into like the Frozen Four and everything. I lived in Massachusetts when, Boston University and a lot of other colleges that had big hockey programs, it was really, really competitive. And if you're, you remember the movie Fargo, they were super into watching the Gophers play college hockey in that film. But it hasn't really been the bonanza of college basketball and college football. And the fact that college baseball is not as popular as those other two has actually made it harder for MLB to do things like move a team and expand. Think about how often football teams move. Hell, the Raiders have moved more times in my lifetime than there have been moves in Major League Baseball franchises. In my lifetime. Now, you know what? I'll count the Senators moving to the Rangers, even though that happened a couple months before I was born. It's this year I was born, 72. There have been 3 in my lifetime. The Senators becoming the Rangers in 1972. Then, 32 years later, the Expos became the Washington Nationals. And last year, out of greed and short-sightedness, the A's moved from Oakland to, don't tell anyone, Sacramento. Meanwhile, the Raiders moved from Oakland to Los Angeles, back to Oakland, then to Las Vegas. That's just the Raiders. That's not even talking about the Oilers. That's not even talking about the Cardinals. That's not even talking about the Colts. That's not even talking about the Browns. I'm sure there's another one I can't think of in football. Hockey, they're always moving. They're bouncing all over the map. And in basketball, we've seen the Hornets move to New Orleans. We've seen, I've seen the Supersonics become the Oklahoma City Thunder. There's in my lifetime, the Kings went from Kansas City to Sacramento. They're bouncing all over the place and easy to expand because there are college basketball arenas that you can use temporarily as a home that have the right capacity. Same thing for football. You could move the Oilers to Memphis for a couple of years and then to Vanderbilt Stadium because they had stadiums they can fit. Look at this capacity. This is like a single A park. And this is a nice field. But you're only going to get 3,000 or 4,000 people here, tops. Tops. You don't have college baseball stadiums just sitting around waiting for teams to be a temporary home. And it is a little bit strange, I think, that college baseball can't catch on because, quite frankly, there's a lot of reasons for it to catch on. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast, easy, and from coast to coast. You need help with an order? Supply House offers support and industry-leading service. You always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical services in just a few clicks. Use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Okay, quick. Who is the current national champion in college baseball? Was it Tennessee? Was it LSU? Was it Ole Miss? Mississippi State was one recently. Florida and Texas A&M have had some great teams. Vanderbilt won it in 2019. Mississippi State won in 2021. And you got to see some quality players like Paul Skeens and Adley Rutschman and Kumar Rocker play in the College World Series. Do you know who some of the Golden Spikes winners are? I bet a lot of you don't. You know, you got to see, I mentioned Phil Nevin here from Cal State Fullerton and Mark Kotze, but there's also Jason Varitek, J.D. Drew, Pat Burrell, Mark Pryor, Jared Weaver, Alex Gordon, Tim Lincecum, Buster Posey. You got Phil Nevin. You got Steven Strasburg. You had the likes of, I mentioned Paul Skeens, but you also saw Andrew Vaughn of the White Sox and Trevor Bauer, who I'm not going to bring up much, and a fellow named Bryce Harper and Chris Bryant and Brendan McKay. These are some of the more recognizable names who have gone on to be the Silver Spikes Award winner. Bob Horner was a big star early on. And, of course, Terry Francona was one of the single greatest college baseball players of all time and became a superstar in college. Didn't quite work out in the major leagues as a player, but you know what? I firmly believe the fact that he was a superstar in college. It didn't completely work out as a player. And the fact that he had that bit of, I don't want to say a chip on his shoulder, but a sense of, for the lack of a better word, perspective, probably made him a better manager. But there isn't that sense of national exposure. Sure, it's a niche market, and there are people who really, really get into it. But it's not the event that college football and college basketball are. And I'm finding it kind of difficult to understand why. Now, one reason is, possibly, it's a different kind of game in college baseball. They play with aluminum bats. It's a different feel on the field. Maybe it's because the college baseball season starts when people aren't thinking about baseball. College baseball tends to be played in warm weather places. I don't know, like Fullerton. You're not going to be able to have it played coast to coast and up and down no matter where you are, like you'd have for basketball in arenas or in football where you're expected to play where the weather is cooler. The season starts in basically February. And with that, it ends, well, around the time that no one's thinking about a baseball playoff. The NCAA basketball championship takes place in March, and the NBA playoffs start in, well, pretty much April. The college football playoffs start in late December, and they sometimes overlap with the NFL. So there's a sense of momentum of the college sport going into the pro, while the college baseball championship is done, and months later, you have the teams playing in the World Series. But I don't know if that's the main reason. I wonder if it's because some of the places where college baseball has its biggest talons in are not necessarily great big baseball markets. Tennessee is probably much more bigger certainly for basketball. Same with LSU, and all of the South is more into football. But that doesn't seem right either, because baseball is popular. I mean, it doesn't get the numbers that football does, but nothing does. But Major League Baseball numbers are at least in the same ballpark as the NBA. You would think that there would be a sense of college baseball being a place where you could get some of that momentum. And as I mentioned, the venues you're not going to have the same size, which reflects the popularity of it. There's really only one college baseball stadium that could realistically be converted into a major league ballpark. And that's the TD Ameritrade or I'm sorry, they used to be TD Ameritrade. It's the Charles Schwab Field. Sorry, got the big money behind it wrong there. The Charles Schwab Field in Omaha, which is where they play the College World Series. And that's about 20 some odd thousand. The regular capacity is about 25,000, but it could expand easily to 35,000. This is one of the reasons why I basically have been saying one of the places that should be a venue for Major League Baseball is Omaha. There's big corporate money in Omaha, and they have a potential stadium that could work. And really the only one of any college baseball stadium that could make it. But if there was, like UNLV, if UNLV had a baseball program that had a 25,000 seat stadium, the A's would be playing there right now. If there was a stadium in the University of Tampa or heck, the University of Florida in Gainesville, the Rays could play there, kind of like how the Carolina Panthers played a couple of seasons at Clemson, and that the Houston Oilers played a season or two in Memphis. But they don't have that. And that's put baseball in a little bit of a bind, but it's also a little confusing for me. Now, I have an idea about it, and maybe something that could help it, because I think that college baseball could definitely find an audience, and they'd have to do it for the same reason that college football is so popular all over the country, and why the popularity of college basketball goes from a niche audience to everybody in the office watching it. And there's my hint. All right. I'm probably not going to make, this thing is completely not right around my neck. And do you know what? I'm going to need to have someone help me with this, because I don't think it's designed to strangle me. Anyway, I'm here. I'm at Goodwin Field at the campus of Cal State Fullerton, a college baseball powerhouse that probably you're not that familiar with. Now, some of you are. I'm sure some of you are a little mad. There's some people who are huge college baseball fans. I've met you, and I hear you. And I'm sure this is not going to be my thing I'm saying right now is not going to be that popular, but the fact of the matter is I'm right. College baseball's popularity is not where it should be. Now, think about the popularity of college basketball. Now, if you live in North Carolina or Kentucky or Indiana, where they're basketball crazy, all right, fine. You know, you're going to be following college basketball all year long, and it's going to be great. But for most college fans, they start to pick up their interest, I don't know, right around March. You notice that most people don't have a college basketball game on if they're not from one of those regions, unless they're flipping around or there's something they want to watch on ESPN, which means they have a time machine, they're going back about 10 years ago, or they're in a hospital room. For most people, that's when they're watching college basketball before the month of March. And suddenly, in March, the entire country gets swept into it. It's kind of a madness that takes place in March. If only they can come up with a good marketing name for that. And suddenly people who haven't watched a college basketball game all damn year are glued to the TV, trying to see, is Creighton going to face up against Vanderbilt, and will Duke win their game against Psychotic State University or whatever schmuck is the 16th seed in that bracket? Because they have money on it. They have money on it. Because we all fill out those brackets. I fill out a bracket. I couldn't name you a college basketball player if you put $10 million in front of me and say, Sully, take it. Just name someone on a single college basketball team. Keep your money. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm glued to the TV because I want to see my bracket come together. And people get super into the college bowl games and the college playoffs and everything like that. And there's lots of gambling going on there. Here's what baseball has to do. They have to really, really, really promote the College World Series as a one-and-done tournament. None of this round-robin crap. Have it be the brackets and have people fill out the brackets the same way they do with college basketball and put a little money on it. If you put a little money on something, people suddenly get really interested in the sport. If you go to a track recently, are the people there really into equestrian culture? Are they really lovers of horses? Or are they people who want to make some money on Lucky Dan coming in first at Narragansett? Or was it in second? Bless you if you get that reference. Baseball, in the great irony of the time where the reinstatement of Shoeless Joe Jackson and Pete Rose and all the other members of the 1919 White Sox have to embrace gambling. College baseball has to embrace gambling. Yes, there's some dangers in that. You got college students who are not making the big bucks. And could they be, I don't know, influenced by gamblers? Sure, absolutely. That's always a problem. Could it get more eyeballs on this? Could it get more attention on this? Could it make this be a baseball haven? Yeah, it probably could. It probably could. People aren't into the sport as much as they're into the chance of them winning. It's like watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or The Floor or whatever competition show, except now you've got some skin in the game. Bracket busting in baseball, swing and a miss and a ping of the bat. Now, another problem that happens with college baseball is this. The big superstars don't always go right to the major league. Sure, you have someone like a David Price who plays 1 year in Vanderbilt and finishes a year in the World Series with the Rays. But a lot of times it takes a couple of years. That's not the case for the best football players or the best basketball players who go right into it. And I think one thing they should do is have really lean into the brackets, put some money down on it, having people get interested. Will Mississippi State beat Cal Fullerton? I don't know. That's part of my bracket. But the other thing, at the end of the College World Series, and I think they should do this after the World Baseball Classic too, but at the end of the College Baseball World Series, they should have a special draft, a special supplemental draft for the players who played in the College World Series to be eligible for the Major League Draft. And at the end of it, players you've been watching, players you're a little more familiar with, that you get a sense of, hey, I've been watching them, they get drafted in that special draft. The regular draft can happen, but this could be a second part. There used to be 2 phases to the draft before. This could be the college baseball draft, the College World Series draft. And therefore, people who are familiar with the players that they've been watching now can say, oh, they got drafted by the Padres, they got drafted by the Yankees or whomever. This is one of the things that makes the NBA draft exciting for people who have just watched the NCAA tournament. Now, or the draft lottery, where you go, oh, we want to get the best players. Sure, there are players who went right from high school to the NBA. But the Kobe's and the LeBrons and the Kevin Garnetts are not as common as you think they are. Now, of course, a lot of the biggest stars who come up through the system and through the minor leagues in baseball, well, a lot of them do get drafted out of high school or signed out of the Caribbean or international free agency. And you're not going to be able to deal with all of that. But maybe you can get a little bit of attention to make a little bit of money and then fantasize about that player who played great here for Cal State Fullerton to be on your team. These are just thoughts. Now, in one sense, the fact that there aren't lots of college baseball stadiums that could double as a major league ballpark has helped baseball. You've seen teams stay in their markets. San Francisco was going to leave. The Giants were going to skedaddle several times from the Bay Area. The Mariners were going to move. Cleveland was going to lose their team. Pittsburgh was going to lose their team. Texas was going to lose their team. Minnesota was going to lose their team. Lots of teams threatened to move, but didn't, because there was nowhere to move to. They don't have that problem in the NBA or the NFL or by proxy the National Hockey League, because of the arenas are so easily converted to hockey. So the fact that college baseball hasn't caught on has made more major league teams stay put, which I think is a positive thing. But I would like to see college baseball get bigger and be more popular because it's fun. And that way, I can brag about being a Cal State Fullerton graduate. Which brings us to our trivia question. I brought up a couple of the great players who came through Cal State Fullerton, but what movie star associated with baseball also went to Cal State Fullerton? Put your answer right down there. And thanks so much for making us your first listen. For your second listen, check out the MLB Game Night right here on the Locked On MLB channel. And you're going to get local expertise on a national level for all the games played every night. So we're talking about my graduation, which is going to be in about an hour. So I better learn how to put this freaking hood on. And by the way, my cap, it's too small. It looks like a yarmulke with a tassel right now. But I digress. Talking about my graduation at Cal State Fullerton and wanting college baseball to explode. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Welcome to my alma mater, and you can call me Sully.